In this video, experts from Little Beaver, the premier manufacturer of earth drills, take an in-depth look at replacing the clutch. First, disconnect the throttle cable and kill wires from the machine. Make sure the on-off switch is in the off position to avoid an unexpected start. Remove the two bolts and nuts that secure the half-moon clamp to the clutch bracket. Grab the flex shaft and pull it away from the machine. You might need to wiggle it a little so the drum will release from the rotor. Next, to remove the rotor assembly from the engine shaft, loosen the two 5/32 inch Allen type set screws on the back side of the rotor. Once you've removed the set screws, there are two ways to remove the rotor from the shaft. The easiest way is to use a wedge type tool such as a piece of wood cut at an angle, like a doorstop. Another way is to use a steel tapered fork tool. Slide the tool or wedge behind the rotor and hit it with a hammer. Turn the rotor a quarter turn and repeat until the rotor is removed. It might be necessary to spray the shaft with a rust removal product if the rotor is difficult to remove or frozen onto the shaft. Next, to remove the drum from the end of the flex shaft, loosen the two set screws on the drum with a 5/32 inch Allen wrench. Once the set screws are loose, slightly drive the drum off of the shaft with a rubber mallet, turning it as you go until the drum is removed. Once the drum is removed, it is always a good idea to check the pilot bearing. If the pilot bearing does not spin freely, or if it has rust around it, you might want to replace it. To remove the pilot bearing, place the large side of the drum down and insert a round piece of steel that is slightly smaller than the hole in the drum and approximately 3 inches long. Use a press to remove it or tap it out with a hammer. To install the pilot bearing, place the new bearing into the hole on the drum. Make sure it is as straight as possible and either press in the bearing or tap it in with a hammer and socket. Make sure the bearing seats all the way down to the pocket and is flush with the top. After you've installed the pilot bearing in the clutch drum, reinstall the drum onto the flex shaft. First, secure the flex shaft in a vise clamp. Then insert the half-moon key and line up the slot on the drum with the key on the shaft. Tap the drum with a rubber mallet until it is sealed all the way onto the flex shaft. Tighten the two set screws. When replacing the clutch shoes and springs, first secure the rotor in a vise clamp so the springs are facing up. Unhook the end of the springs from the rotor using a Phillips screwdriver or needle nose pliers. The shoes will loosen as you detach each spring. Next, remove the shoes and unhook the springs from them. To assemble the shoes back on the rotor, be sure to match them to the groove. They should be aligned in the same direction so the shoes slide back on. Attach two springs to the shoes and leave one spring aside. Secure the shoes around the grooves. Once the shoes are situated on the rotor, place one side of the last spring in the shoe. Use a Phillips screwdriver to hook the other end of the spring to the other shoe. It may take a few attempts to secure the spring. Finally, reinstall the clutch to the engine, starting with the rotor. Line the rotor up with the keyway and make sure it seats all the way down and tighten the set screws. Then reinstall the drum and flex shaft onto the clutch bracket. Make sure to tap the drum so it is seated tightly against the clutch. Place the clamp back over the flex shaft and install the bolts and nuts. Do not tighten. Make sure the handle is in the proper operating position before you tighten the bolts on the clamp. For more information or questions about your Little Beaver earth drill, or to check out additional service videos, visit www.littlebeaver.com